those.
Hello, hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game. I am Stranger Side, your host and community ambassador for Collective. I am joined today by my faithful co-host, Grieve.
Howdy folks, it's 35 degrees Celsius here in Berlin and it's fucking exhausting.
That means, is that hot or cold? I don't know Celsius! And I'm also, Empty was not able to be with us today, but we are, however, joined by our guest, who is CornMeal, who is the most prolific card designer in all of Collective, pretty much. Or at least he has the biggest realm, Morselseeker, Realm of the Dead Things. You want to say hi, Corn?
Greetings, and I do not take the title you have given me.
So humble. Anyways, let's jump straight into it with the accepted submissions. These are cards I got in last week. Starting with Corlast Blast is a 1-drop strength action from nowhere in particular. Would deal 2 damage to a unit. If it survives, give it +2/+1.
+3/+2.
+3/+2. I am sorry. It's also hot here. It's like 80 Fahrenheit, you know. So
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what that is in Celsius's Grief.
In perspective, 35
+3/+2.
degrees, 35
Anyways.
degrees Celsius are 95 Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay, thank you. So,
how do you
Corlast
boil?
Blast.
Sorry, I was. How do you boil water?
212.
Uh,
Anyways, Corlast Blast. I think this is cute. So this is cute for a couple reasons. It's a really good 1-cost ping, targeted ping. It also could serve to help rage, and actually it helps rage pretty well, I think, because if you can take the hit and come back, you get a +3 attack at a decent discount. I think this is actually pretty neat, pretty useful. What do you think, Grief?
Isn't that a card from Hearthstone?
Wouldn't know.
Same. I don't play Hearthstone.
It's a good card. That's basically it. It's a rage enabler with a boss attached to it if it survives. We had cards like that in the past, and this is just the same at 1 cost.
I think this could also be versatile in a self-harm kind of deck because you could use this as a sack card for lower cost units in a pinch, or you can use it for rage, or you can use it for the buff. So
don't forget it doesn't target. It doesn't only target allies.
Yeah. So you could also use it for removal in a pinch. So this is very, very versatile. I mean, I like that. Corn, what do you think about it?
From my experience with all of these versatile rage cards that are currently in the game, this will mostly be used on your opponent's units. I mean, I have tried to play Rage in Collective. All of the ping spells, no matter how much I want to use them on my own stuff, it doesn't happen. It's so much more useful to use it on the opponent's stuff. This is going to be used as removal more than anything. I'm not saying it won't be used for Rage triggers. Buffing your 1/3 life bonder with a rage proc and making it the basically a 4/3 isn't too bad, but more likely than not, it's going to kill your opponent's early game.
Yeah. Okay. The Albatross Daredevil is a 2-drop mine 2/2 bird from AV, which is a big terrarium full of birds, with flying and agile. Very, very cute little French vanilla. I think this gives Ash Gertie some stuff she needs to make mine flyers a thing. I know in Legacy, the big flyers deck is there still a mine strength flyers deck floating around in Legacy or no?
It never really was. It was actually initially a standard deck due to the totem, because totem is broken as fuck.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, you can basically play it in a Mind Flyers type-ish deck with a few dragons for Dragon's Breath and so on and so forth. It's just more addition for that, but it's still basically a solid mind aggro unit. But inbuilt flying, so inbuilt evasion. Agile, so it can actually do stuff and turn it drops.
Okay, so, well, hopefully this could be a step in the right direction for making Mind Flyers cooler and more workable. It's definitely really, really cool. I liked the Fetus art, and I think it really matches pretty well the scene and the card. Corn, what do you think of this?
It's efficient. It's been needed for a while. This card, not only in this form, has been attempted many times. I saw it attempted as a dragon. I've seen it attempted as this card several, like at least 3 times on the sub. It can be used in many decks. It doesn't have 1 attack, so it actually has an excuse not to be run in Dunewalkers. But I mean, it probably actually might still be run in Dunewalkers.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it is an effective unit. It has some evasion. It attacks immediately.
Yeah. And now, for the last one of the accepted submissions, we have the Morselseeker, which is a 2-drop Spirit 3/1 Undead Lizabo from Mirage. With Rebound at summon, mark a card in the enemy hand, and when the marked unit enters play, duel it. I actually think, well, this does have Rebound, which does make this useful. It uses the mark mechanic that's been featured on one other Gokun card. That one actually I don't even think worked.
Nope,
at least for a while. I don't know if it's been bug fixed since. What?
I don't think it has been bug fixed, and it has been really working. So I'm not really giving much hope in this card also working as intended.
Yeah, I think this one weirds me out a little bit because I feel like, I mean, with the Rebound, it might be more viable, but I feel like we have already a lot of redundancy in these kind of effects. I guess maybe not in Standard, but even I feel like there's a lot of things in Standard that fill a really similar niche. The only thing I could think of this does differently is having 2 really, really relevant tribes. And that might be enough to push it over the edge, but I'm not sure. Corn, what do you think of this?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but does mark change the tribe, or is it just an invisible mark on the card?
It's just, I think it's a visible mark on a card.
It's a visible keyword thing or text that is actually put. Oh wait, no. So I think it's a tribe. I think you are correct that it actually puts the mark tribe on the card.
Because if it does mark tribal, that is what I was interested in, and that's what I saw people talking about. So I wanted to bring that here. If we actually have mark tribal, that is a good way to do this, because then it will keep track of things very easily and hopefully won't have as many bugs. Other than that, having a high attack, low HP stat line with rebound and a decent summon is pretty nice, because I mean, the mark summon doesn't go away if this dies, right? And undead is pretty good at bringing its minion. Sorry, I called them and I don't units. Sorry, too many games. Units back from the grave into play. At least it used to be. It still has some ways of recursion now. So I don't know. I thought it was a decent early removal card. But at the same time, I was mostly interested in how Mark actually worked, because it could use some rewarding on this card.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the wording's really, really bad. And we're going to talk later on this episode about something else where Gokun did something where the way it's worded is so bad it would need to be bug fixed away from his actual blocking. Grief, what do you think of this?
If it's really a tribal, then I see the effect more useful in the kind of wording that it's currently in. If it's not a tribe, then I don't really understand why we even mark any kind of card to begin with. If I remember correctly, the mark werewolf thingy only triggers off of units, funny enough. So even if you're playing an action that is marked, it wouldn't trigger the first card that will add this mechanic. So maybe we're just trying to avoid a bug altogether. I don't
I
really
would
know. I like the design direction of it, because if we actually look at marked tribal and trying to do that kind of card, we can actually retroactively buff slash update this card from Legacy, which like the Demolitionist, which marks a target
Yeah.
and blows up all marked targets. So yeah, this is actually something that would be interesting to introduce. Um, Outside of that, it's just a cutesy little onboard removal.
I mean, there's not real. It doesn't have to be a tribe. It could be a keyword like harmonized or charged.
I think
That,
marked is probably easier handled as a keyword, just to
yeah.
as a sorry, not as a keyword, as a tribe. So it actually is easier to keep track of and can be easily it can be referenced to easier than
Yeah, and
trying
it
to
does give
reference a
you more
custom
ways of
keyword.
interacting with it. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's not that it couldn't be done like how Counter is or how Huntress is done for dailings, but yeah, I would prefer it as a tribe line.
and we can even update Huntress. Okay, these are the the active submissions that are on the subreddit for you to go vote on now. Starting with Dora Molina, which is a 6-drop mine 0/8 giant artisan from Tutela with fast, ambush, overrun, and summon. Players shuffle all tokens in their graveyard into their decks and draw 2 cards. When you draw a card, this gains +2 attack this turn. I think this is pretty interesting. Any deck that has tokens that don't take care of themselves when they hit the graveyard, you can end up mucking that player up quite a bit. I think doubloons are in this category as well, so you can give Pearl Maw a bunch of really, really bad empty draws.
No, they remove themselves.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I checked before this thing, but I guess I forgot.
No, they're banished on use.
Okay. So not doubloons, but still any other token reliant deck, you can really gunk them up with this potentially. 3 keywords. Some of them are pretty relevant, at least fast is. Overrun, very, very well. I guess if you can get a bunch of draws via something like Door to Elsewhere, you could probably do something really impressive with. There's probably a couple other tricks you can do in mind and have this be a good, like a sort of a draw-based top-end finisher. So this could also work well with the Shuffledraw archetype that Magneter's been working on with the Mad Theorist. I know Mad Theorist was technically spiked, but they've been working together on it. Paint and Power. This could be a really neat top end for it. But is this going to get in and be our rare? Grief, I'll have you start.
It's a cute little card. Okay, sure, there are these kinds of gunk effects, that, as you're calling them, but in most cases, the tokens that you would throw into these kinds of decks are always useful to you. I mean, I don't care if I just read you my card from. If I read you my draw 3 cards for 1 card just because you shuffle it back into my deck, yeah, I'll gladly take it. It's more or less or this card is more or less a, well, payoff for shuffling effects. That's one thing. On the other hand, it's a pseudo, what they're called, Dralog, which cares about actually putting tokens into your opponent's deck or creating bad tokens for them. Outside of that, yes, not really much of a use case for this card. And to make it a pretty much good positive for you, you can technically throw this into a deck against green or against worm decks, where they shuffle back all the worms into their deck, which is kind of, well, whatever, because they're 1-cost units with pretty good effects. Anyways, that's the problem. Most of our tokens are pretty good.
Yeah. Corn, what do you think of this?
Trying to rep. First off, I thought it actually shuffled not tokens from graveyard at first. I thought it shuffled all tokens, but if it does only shuffling tokens from graveyard into decks, I don't see as much of a use for this. No, I did see this was going. For a moment, I thought it was going to be a PM killer anyway. And I thought it would affect Mar. Well, no, it wouldn't hurt Mari because does Mari's a special ability have to be discarded for it to go off, or can it be put into deck for it to go off?
It discarded, or it just needs to discarded or played.
Okay, but it can't. It doesn't just have to leave hand then.
Oh, yeah, leave hand doesn't count.
Either way, as it is of current, I would prefer this in strength with life bond and remove fast.
I think that's way. I like this a lot. I think you guys are. We're focusing too much on the token part. Just the draw 2 and the +2 attack for every card you draw is really potentially cool. You can do a lot with that.
The thing is, it's too weak as a 6-drop at that point. Yeah, okay, you draw 2 cards for 6 mana.
It not having protection is a potential issue. Yeah,
you have a 4/8.
You could make this a really, really high attack. Frankly, I wouldn't care. It doesn't have protection. It has ambush, which is nice, but that is the exact opposite of what I would want on this. I would want agile over ambush.
Yeah, that was the thought I had, that maybe it should be more aggressive in its focus.
But also, if they are going to give a +2 attack for every card drawn, I would prefer it in an affinity where card draw. First off, its card draw style is both players draw. That's more of a strength thing. Second, there is some card. There's a lot more card draw in mind, which would make its attack rise more, but it feels too efficient then, but not. It's not going to cut it. I mean, it's going to make it a really big attack, but it's not designed really right now to be an aggressive card with a lot of attack. So it doesn't matter right away.
Yeah, so I think getting it even getting rid of fast, changing it to agile ward would be something I'd be interested in.
I would change it to strength, get rid of fast, change ambush to agile, add life bond. That is impressive. That'll scare people.
I wanted mine because I wanted to be a top end for the Shuffledraw type stuff, but that's just a difference in opinion.
At that point, you wouldn't really play this unit because you have far better control effects in that kind of deck. It's a bad top end.
Anyways, I just want to move on for the moment. Roving Remnant is a 2-drop Spirit 4/1 Spectre from Walnocked with Leap. Summon, each player mills 4, and when this is discarded, each player mills 4. I really like this swap card that's been kind of floating around for a little bit, but I guess I just don't know, and I kind of wanted to hear Grief talk a little bit about this, whether or not we need this kind of effect right now and where kind of the status of mills at. So Grief, what do you think of this?
Perfect mill card. This is basically the bridging the gap between the way old Disco Mill deck. If that card would have been released like 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, we would have been raving because that would be such a funny effect. Because there is a Burial Spirit card in Legacy, which says whenever a card is put from your deck into your graveyard, create a copy of that, discard it.
Yeah. Then you have the potential to get these to like chain into each other and cause a lot of growth.
Exactly. We would have loved this kind of card. Problem is we would probably run more or less against the clock anyway, because that is a very time-consuming animation process. But regardless of that, this is pretty solid. Unsummon in mills pretty efficiently, and is a 4/1 body. Leap is kind of but whatever. And on discard, you can basically use it as a discard engine for filling your graveyard. So maybe you are less into the Spectre tribe as a, oh yeah, I need to discard my hand cards, but more into the aspect of using discard as an engine to fill your graveyard. This just goes hand in hand with that. Also, this mills 8. If you play it with idle contract.
Yeah. Oh man, that is really good. Corn, what do you think of this?
I was actually really worried to talk about this one today. I thought about selecting it. Mostly because I thought if we rolled it off, people would kill it.
Because people don't like mill, or
people don't like free value and people don't like mill. It's the fact that this can be discarded for the effect.
Yeah.
But it is both players clearly milling. I mean, you milling is a downside, clearly, you know.
Yeah.
Of course.
Except people don't see it that way. So anyway, on a different note though, to praise the card on that, so negative I guess free value, but on the more positive light though, the game collective gets into phases where there are certain things that are too easy to achieve because people polarize things. So, for example, it's very easy to get to high life totals right now and have a very wide, big, strong board in some cases. Some people don't care about your board, so they run it out of burn removal or removal in general. Sometimes there's a huge amount of card draw, etc., etc. And while things are being polarized, some archetypes get left behind. And honestly, I want to start to see the mill come back a little bit. And seeing that this has to be run with a little bit of a discard package, which I don't think the old mill really ran a huge amount of self-discard. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I mean, maybe they could have. Does Jester work with discard, or does it have to be milled?
No, he has to be milled. Most cards of the old engine worked with self-milling, but others like Looking Glass, like Orchestra, etc., care about either being milled or being put into the graveyard. Same as Swine Prince, which doesn't care how it gets into the graveyard as long as it gets into the graveyard.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this could have worked with some cards then in the old mill package. And as you said, there's another card in Legacy that can abuse this a bit. But yeah, I guess I just want to be able to see this come to light again.
I agree. I would really like to see us get mill, and that's actually why I picked it. But I can see what you mean about people possibly being scared of it. I was just wondering how effective of a tool this was, and especially with showing me that chain, it really convinced me. The Charge Zapper is a 4-drop mind action from nowhere in particular with deal 1 more damage each turn this is in your hand, max 6, deal 3 damage. So it's worded a little goofy, a little bit of a goofy effect to begin with. And it's sitting at 0. One thing that annoys me, and this is just a templating issue, is that max 6 here should not be in parentheses. Besides that, I am worried. I think this effect is interesting, and caring about things being in your hand has always been a really, really fun aspect of collective. This, I think, is too easy and too good. There's not really a lot to be said about just letting it sit in your hand and then being able to get a fairly efficient bolt off. I don't know. I think it's too much. Corn, what do you think?
Well, I also wanted a few things in this game that care about being in your hand for a few turns. One could argue that the longer this is in your hand, I mean, in some matchups, if you draw this late, it's not going to really see a lot of play. But that's not really the case anymore. Though I might be a little biased with Arcanists, because Arcanists, this will be if it's in your hand, this will be increasing damage. If it's in your deck, this will be decreasing cost.
Yeah.
If you're having a decent day with your Arcanist deck. I forget the card name. I just refer it to as the 3-drop Arcanist that has the summon that makes all the actions in your deck cost 3 less.
Anomalist?
Iblis?
Yeah, probably Anomalist. They are a cloud-ish. I think they're like a storm elemental Arcanist. But yeah. But let's look at the card just as the card. In this game, for neutral at 4 mana, we do 5 damage to a unit. Fireball is seen as one of the strongest burn curves, or where the burn curve should be, which is 2 mana, deal 3 damage to any target. And then I think some people could say it could go up. Some people think it curves, so like 3 mana being 4, maybe 4 mana being 5 to any target. With, I mean, we have 4 mana neutral that does it to unit, but either way, people can argue about where the burn should lie. But then back to card pool, we have Combustion Wand, yes? 4 mana, deal 6 damage to any target, lose 1 max mana. But that one you don't have to wait. So honestly, it's a good card. It's another good burn card. And you're paying time instead of max mana or something, or only unit targeting or something. And sure, if you get it at the beginning of the game, it's no problem. So it'll be stronger, but I don't know. I think it might be getting a worse rap than it needs to. I don't think it's necessarily too strong, but the question is, do we really need another burn spell? I guess is the bigger question.
Okay, I know we had to talk about a similar card that I designed before. I really don't know what the curve on multiplayer is, and was deferring to, I think it was you at the time. As far as single player usefulness goes, I think this is okay. This is interesting. I was actually more confused as to what was scaring it away, and so I wanted to talk to people who are more familiar with the competitive. And I just guessed, and I guess I guessed wrong. Grief, what do you think?
Another pitch. Let it start at 0 and don't have a max cap. Basically, at that point, it balances itself out. Considering that here, sure, in the starting hand, you have basically 5 turns until it is actually a fireball-esque effect for 4 mana. Up until that, you still have to basically keep the same card for 5 turns in hand. Afterwards, yeah, sure, it can even grow larger and larger, but depending on that, you still have basically your win condition in the slotting hand that you've basically tried to work up until then, making it a pseudo, what's it called again? Max absolute scaling.
Yeah.
Absolute scaling, which you could actually chain into each other, because you can then actually hit different targets. Problem is, the later you draw it, the worse it becomes. So it actually is, as I said, balancing itself out. And yeah, sure, you can use it as a bad ping effect for 4 mana, but still, in a small deck scenario like single player, this is probably okay, considering the decks are way smaller in size. In Legacy and Standard, this is less the case. You want to probably then try to, as soon as possible, decrease the cost of this card in your deck or in your hand, so that the scaling doesn't affect you too much. But at that point, that's interesting deck building and game sequencing.
Yeah,
As it is now, it's a 2-turn fireball.
Yeah, I do like your assessment. That is interesting, and it's definitely harder to cheese if it starts at 0, but it is a lot more swingy. I think, like you said, you want to keep this in your open. If it's like that, I think that is a lot more compelling, and maybe that would convince people. I don't know, but right now it's not sitting so great. So hope it does better. Maybe gets a resub. The Scavenging Spectre is a 1-drop spirit 1/2 Spectre from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. With active, return the top card of your graveyard to hand, then discard another. I think this is so cute. It is very, very clearly great support for Marie, because it lets you fiddle around, recur some stuff, and for Spectres, lets you proc a bunch of discards. This is just a great little utility fella, and I think this is really cute. I actually want this to do really well. Corn, what do you think of this? It's not doing well right now. It's at 2.
There was a Wisp, a 3-mana Wisp. I don't know what realm it was from. It's in Legacy now.
I think it was not from No Realm.
It's realmless, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know it was realm, but it is you draw a card from your graveyard and you discard a card, I think, or
Other way around.
Other way around. So that is this now, at 1 with an active.
And it can only pull the top though.
So this is much closer to the previous card than people might want to admit. But although seeing that they're both, I think, very low on the Reddit right now, maybe that's not true. But basically, this is really good early game. Or maybe it wouldn't be because your graveyard wouldn't be full yet. But it doesn't have the immediate impact that the summon has, which is why some people have issues with actives. But if you leave this 1-drop alone, it will have some definite impact.
Well, and that's all it needs to be, right? It needs to be something really, really scary that you want to get rid of in Marine. And this is a reliable discard engine, lets you proc discard effects multiple times.
I mean, I would like it. It's just I feel it might get killed more often than it works, unless people don't realize what it's doing. Because it's not only organizing Marie's graveyard, it's proccing her XP, or aiding in proccing her XP.
Corn, it's got 2 HP and is a 1-drop. If you are spending mana to get rid of this, I have already won.
Nope. You can basically proc the passive on turn 2 with this card.
Yeah.
Which is pretty scary, considering that it is a reliable engine.
Yeah. But I mean, if someone is putting effort into removing this, I'm probably going to win that trade.
You want to remove it.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to win that trade, right?
No.
How much mana are you spending to get rid of this? You're spending at least 2 mana.
1 mana, considering that we just got a 1 mana removal there for that.
Oh, Corlast Blast.
Yeah, but that's not gonna. I'm actually saying this is on the stronger side. This card.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. But what I am getting at is yes, it will need to be removed, and yes, your opponent will have to waste resources to remove it. I don't think it'll normally get off, but yes, for a 1-mana unit, your opponent will most likely use resources to remove it.
And so you think people aren't voting for this because it's too powerful?
Yeah, that is probably part of it, yes.
Okay,
I mean,
Grief, you want to go?
Strong card. It should probably cost 2 mana.
Okay.
I mean, I raise its HP by 1 then. But
yeah, I think it would need a stat point at least to compensate.
Something else I was thinking. What was it? No, I don't remember. That's too bad.
Okay, let's move on then. The Chocolate Goblin is a 2-drop neutral 3/3 goblin food from Perotis with feed nothing. For those of you who don't immediately get it, as it took me a couple minutes to work out, things this does. Baby Sweets cares about feed abilities. Other cards care about blank text, so technically this isn't blank text. And we also might care about this because it does have the food tribe. You also might care about it because it's a cute little picture of a chocolate ice cream goblin. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's an interesting card. It's basically vanilla, but not vanilla. That's why it's not vanilla ice. The idea basically was just having food synergies and with a sweet baby, and that's basically it. That's why it's neutral. That's why it's a 3G vanilla. Blah blah blah. Yada yada. The question actually was more important about how do we word this kind of effect? Do we word it with nothing? Do we leave a blank space? Or as I suggested to Taza, would also could work if you don't want to go with nothing but don't want to leave a blank space, using basically just fuck, I forgot the name. The minus symbol. What's it called? If you're using it in a text to connecting words or to leave stuff out.
Hyphen.
Hyphen. Thank you. Which could also work. That's basically it. Because people will probably get confused when looking at a card. Well, feed. Nothing. What does it do?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the blank food ability is really cute. And it
It's
does have
cute.
cards that it already synergizes and works with. The question is really just, is this worthy? I mean, set it against all the other cards, see if it stacks up. And for cards that care about having food in the graveyard, like say Sweets Dragon, stuff like that, pretty good card.
Yep.
Corn, what do you think?
This is stronger than people know. So feed nothing. I told Tazara this as well, which is actually why it has nothing, is because of or at least I assume why, is I attempted this before, not with feed, but with entomb, with the purpose of proccing Motomakarius and cards, or not Motomakari, but cards that care about entombs trigger.
Yeah, having an entomb, yeah.
But otherwise being a complete vanilla. So it's slightly higher than vanilla, but only in a few rare cases. For everything that cares about a feed trigger, the feed trigger still goes on. It's still gonna trigger on those every unit you play. I'm trying. I mean, I haven't looked at too many of the food cards, but I'm assuming there is something out there that cares about the amount of food triggers. Just one?
There's just one card that cares about feed as a trigger. The rest cares, but there aren't more cards that do so.
Okay, but there. So
perhaps then it inhibits development in that direction.
I'm not saying it inhibits. I'm saying it is. This card does stuff with it. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if it inhibits is the right term, but seeing that there's even one card, I don't care if there's more than one. The fact that there is one card means that this has a little bit more for it than just being a 3/3, if the other card is runnable. It's also got the food tribe, which is very important as far as I know in the food decks, because there's is Devour still in standard?
No.
That makes me cry. That was a good pick. But yeah, no, if we have, I want more food tribe on units.
Yeah.
Definitely made
Thinker, who's like the #1 advocate of the food, the actual food cards, the actions, really doesn't like it on units for some reason. I don't understand why. I think it's fine on units, and I think it would be more interesting if we had other stuff that could prop it up.
You said Zinker.
Yeah.
Zinker doesn't care if it's on units. He cares if it has a feed effect or not.
Oh, maybe that's what that was. I just barely peeked in on that discussion. Anyways, the Silver Steer is a 3-drop neutral 5/5 robot cow from Howdier. With Overrun and Entomb, this card's killer draws a card. So this is a overstated little thing, but if you kill it, you get a little bit of a bonus. I think this kind of design space is interesting. I'm the kind of guy who likes cards that have drawbacks. As is, this is kind of cool. I mean, I could see inserting this into a lot of decks that were mostly just looking for efficiency. Where's it sitting at? This is actually kind of where you want to know the answer. Sitting at 10, it could reasonably get in. Corn, what do you think of this?
In almost any other game, I wouldn't want to run this as much, but Card Draw and Collective is worth dirt. If that makes it. It's so easy to draw cards in this game that I
Yeah.
don't know if your opponent drawing a card from killing it is actually that bad. I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of cards that make that into a drawback. Even the cycle of finding, binding, grinding mage.
Right. There are ways to prevent it, but I think are they 2-drop?
I think they're all 2-drops, aren't they, Grief?
Yep.
Yeah, so you could run whichever one of those you run in your package. And seeing that this is neutral, it could be in any of those packages. But yeah, 3-mana 5/5 for a run isn't bad at all. It could hurt late game comparatively. Maybe I would prefer for that 1 mana more, giving it agile, and just run Boneglaive instead. No, it's got a weaker stat line, but I prefer the agile.
Yeah. Grief,
Or
what
you
do
could run
think of
both.
this? Oh. Corn's talking, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Grief, what do you think of this?
It's an okay mid-range card. You can also use it in aggro. It has overrun as a 5/5 body, and in the worst case scenario, you can even sack it yourself if it's just 1 or 2 HP. So whatever. It's also a good target for the new reactor card or whatever. Putting it as a 8/5 with overrun, turn 4. Sounds nice. So yeah, basically that's it. You just hit hard, and basically the moment it dies, yeah, sure, your opponent draws maybe a card that you do if you sack it yourself, but at the end of the day, it's just there to deal damage. And it's pretty efficient at doing so.
I just realized you can kill this to draw a card. It might have slipped my mind.
Yeah, so yeah, some interesting synergy there. The Critic is a 3-drop strength 1/4 demon from Miracle. When your opponent draws their first card in a turn, you may choose to shuffle it back into deck. They draw a card. Space has been trying to revive this dead realm. I don't know if it's worth it, but whatever. Let's evaluate this on its merits. You can take one of their draws and force shuffle it back in. I think this is cute. It's definitely a space we don't really explore a lot, and it's really neat and flavorful. Things I don't like about it, first of all, it could be, and I think this would not even be, well, I guess this may be a text size issue, but I would have liked it a little bit better if it would have put it on the bottom. Because if the game runs really late, there's a chance they could just draw it back. Not really a big concern, just something I thought I'd bring up. And this can serve as an interesting counter to Herald, can serve as an interesting counter to any sort of like scouring, messing with the top of deck shenanigans. I really like a lot of the things this does. Grief, what do you think of this?
This has a clear purpose. Problem is it doesn't really work in the way we want it to work. It's less the shuffling it back to the bottom. This is a turn 3 card. We just talked about the binding, finding, grinding magician. This is meant to work with them because they double trigger.
Yeah.
Thing is, for this kind of effect to really work, you need hand/deck information. And we rarely get deck information, and we don't draw cards revealed. We only have one card that does so, and I think it's in Legacy, and it's a mind card.
Yeah, I think this. Well, I mean, with Binding Magician, this is a lock.
Doesn't this prevent draws with binding?
Yeah.
Of course, because you will force them to draw a card instead of their first draw.
Right.
Making them so, yeah, they drew your first card of the turn, you put it back on, shuffle it back into your deck, they draw another card, they discard it. That's the binding lock.
Yeah, so your opponent can never draw ever again.
Exactly.
Which makes this potentially gross in Legacy, but of course there is the thing that you're running this off Affinity or running Binding Magician off Affinity.
I wouldn't mind running it off Affinity for that combo.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It's still
Also,
good. It's still
you
great.
also you get good interactions with both strength and spirit as a card pool to even put more emphasis on that.
Yeah. So this could be cool in a handlock deck in Legacy. But beyond that, I think, yeah, this maybe comes out a little bit too late and you don't have the information you really need to make the most of it.
No. Sorry, strong disagree. So after reading it more, I don't know if I'm underestimating it now, but at first, the first thing that came to my mind was Mind Sculptor until I read Shuffle. And it doesn't look at multiple cards, it just does.
Yeah.
We don't have enough scour on your opponent for that
Exactly.
route to go. So that fear went away pretty quickly. But yeah, having a combo that prevents any drawing from happening.
In Legacy, I think because Binding Magician isn't in Standard anymore.
Is it not?
Binding
Nope.
Magician's not in Standard.
Nah, I see. I keep forgetting which things are in Standard and which things are not. I play Colosseum mostly, so.
There's another card you can use with this, though. The Spectre, which basically deals damage whenever a card leaves their hand.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that could be
Heckler.
fun.
Heckler isn't as bad, though. I mean,
Heckler
that's
is
just 2
cool.
damage.
Heckler is cool, though.
I mean, when I run Heckler, it's mostly as a hate bear against meta heroes anyway.
I mean, yeah, if you're running haters, you can at least have some fun.
It makes me cry a little though, because I wanted it to be for like an opponent discard deck, but no, it's just for promo and KM hate and maybe some Marie hate. Just a hate bear against heroes.
Exactly.
But yeah, overall this card I don't like the hand look. Indeed it could, but it is only in Legacy, so people who are playing Legacy aren't usually going to be people who are just entering the game. And
Yeah.
it always can be put on a reserved list if it's too much.
Yeah. For the league, at least.
Yep.
Right.
And
Yeah.
no upcoming tournaments.
Giants, isn't this an update?
No. Giant Eye never got in.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was worded like an update on the sub. Giant's Eye is a 2-drop spirit action from nowhere in particular. Withdraw 2 units that cost 3 or less. I think this is the last Grief pick.
Yes.
Grief, what did you want to talk about with this?
Cool draw engine card. Upvoted. Helps out aggro, helps out mid-range, helps out combo decks. You can even build your deck around just getting specific 3-drop card, 3-cost cards, which 3-cost cards units which have toolboxing effects, or hate bears, which cost 3 or less.
Yeah. So this is in my single-player Green Man trash deck. I run really unit light because I'm just running the Green Men's, a Bursting Blight to tutor for Green Men's, Bellist. This can get me my Green Men's and Bursting Blights. What other packages in at least Standard do you see that could really use this card?
You mean like Iblis?
Iblis. Yeah, they'd be running it off Affinity, but there are a lot of our Arcanists that are pretty low on the curve, and this could be your duplicates.
This
of
is a
Iblis.
generic card draw card. It's like, okay, what package can I run this in? And more like, oh yeah, I want more consistency for my deck. This fits the bill. Put it in. That was basically the same. Commentary when it came to the recruit cards, because there's a recruit card that draws you 2 units with 1 attack or less.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to think of things that particularly needed it, that were running really unit light, maybe and needed it as a tutor or whatever. So those are the 2 that come to mind, is Arcanists and Green Men. Corn, what do you think of this?
I mean, you're right on Arcanists. Another one is, I don't know how meta this is, but I call them the action fetch trio. There is goes to the library, freshman, and skeletal seeker. These are all 2-drop, and one is an off affinity for 3-drop, or other way around. All of these are early game action fetchers, and usually I run them in lists where the only I care about a very few actions that I specifically need for my deck to function. And usually there's not a lot of other units that are of that cost range in those type of decks. So this would just draw my other action fetchers, which I don't know if that's really necessary, but it definitely wouldn't hurt. It would definitely thin the deck a lot sooner and guaranteed. But usually when you're running 9 action fetcher units, it's I don't know if you really need more filtering.
Okay.
But it's
There's a couple cool ideas for it. I guess most of what we're doing is just increasing visibility for that. Reconciliation is a 0-drop neutral action from nowhere in particular with make an off affinity card in your hand neutral permanently if you do draw a card at the end of this turn. Originally, I thought when I saw this, I thought Tahazar was out of his ever-loving mind because I did not realize it only targeted off affinity cards. If it weren't for that clause, this card would be totally busted. As is, this is... Why is this sitting at 0, Corn? What's your assessment of this card?
Oh, it was sitting at 1 when I checked it, but if it's at 0 now, then that's too bad. People probably don't want a better Attune.
Yeah.
Even though Attune is... I mean, people already know how bad it is to have a coins from your deck. I don't know why they think this is so bad. It's basically a quick ramp / splash enabler. It yes, you have something, Grief?
That's the thing. It's a splash enabler that people don't want because it's not enabling splashing in the way they want to, because they want it to turn into an affinity and not neutral. For some fucked up reason, because splash the keyword is necessary now.
I see. I mean, having it be neutral allows it to be only one card and us not to make too many much.
Yeah. But one cost effect, so it actually activates, so it actually triggers off affinity. Bullshit. You don't care about splash in any way, shape, or form. But sorry, you're talking.
No, it's fine. You had your finger. You seem to have feelings for this very nicely painted gray alien. Anyway, so I guess overall, I am a huge, and I know people know Popka is, even though Popka is not on this card. This is the Rexio and Zar card, which I've seen the Rexio around quite a bit, and they've got some nice design ideas. I'm hoping actually, let me start a little bit from the beginning, because originally this was actually going to be a strength one. If I recall, this was going to be a strength Attune, basically, in how it worked. It would make a card strength, and I think it cost it 1 or 0. But then Tazar came in, I think, and then they decided to do it on neutral. And then they balanced when the drawing of the card would come in, because I don't think it originally cantripped.
No.
But I think people were too worried about it cantripping immediately for a 0 mana cantrip, because then I would just run this for a 0 mana cantrip, but it's at the end of turn. So it is relatively thought out and balanced. Anyway, so now knowing it was what it originally wanted and the path it went through, as it is now, maybe people are getting scarred or scared of some aspects again of splashing, or as Grief said, they want it in a certain way. But realistically, we do need, or this collective needs, more effective ways of splashing for a few more deck designs to really pop up. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a complete third of your deck or half of your deck sometimes. I don't know. I just want to see more crossing of cards with
I think
them being cast.
One potential maybe issue concern people are having with this card is in KM, this is pretty good thinner, even with the end of turn clause on the draw.
But then she can use any of her abilities on the neutral card.
But of course, yeah, she has to. Well, but I mean actions, right? Just do this, use it on a non-mind action.
The thing is, you don't care because she reduces any kind of cost.
I think I guess what Stranger is saying is it is a cantrip for 0 mana in her deck, and she can cast it pretty much any turn she wants.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very, very, very.
That's the only real concern I have with it. And the rest of it is just kind of boring.
No. I think Tahaza did the intelligence stuff because that's an oversight on Rainbow Prism, because neutral is actually not an affinity.
Mm-hmm.
So cards actually not being equal to neutral shouldn't count as of affinity, which Rainbow Prism actually does not include.
Yeah. Well, with KM, I mean, that just means she has to wait till she hits level 2 to play it. But...
Yeah.
But yeah, even then, I guess it's not even that good. So.
Because that's 3 turns.
Yeah. No, this is a fine card. I'm sad to see it dying. I hope it hopefully it'll do better in the next.
I don't think it's bad. I just think it's a little boring. But for those who like splashing, I'm sure they're all over this.
The thing is, it's not boring. It's actually a totally okay card. It's just funny enough. It doesn't cantrip directly. It's neutral. It puts cards into neutral. It's totally fine and would actually be just a subtle side grade to stuff like Attune or Clovey from Legacy. Bot. Big bot. As I said before, I don't fucking care if you care about splash as a keyword. Design more splash cards than I would actually care about cards that care about reducing costs.
Yeah.
Because people are making the argument of putting the cart before the horse. Splash is a keyword that actually needs to exist before we put this kind of specific splash effect into the game. Before that, this can just turn cards into neutral, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. The Hothanded Bandit is a 2-drop mine 0/3 gun insect spectre from Howdier with quick draw, and when you play a card, this gets +2 attack this turn. Quick draw is a keyword that Go Chris has been working on. When blocked, this unit spends its attack to deal damage randomly split among its blockers. Now, I don't like this keyword for numerous reasons. It's sort of a side-graded frenzy. And the other thing, and this was not made clear to me, and it's not clear from the wording, apparently when it spends its attack, it gets its attack back, which normally payments made are just payments, and they just stay gone. So I don't know if that would even be considered bug fix worthy if Goken blocked it so that they get their attack back at the end of the turn. But as it's worded, it seems to be the case that they would lose their attack permanently because that's how costs currently work. So I don't even know which way to really say we should be evaluating this. I guess we're going to evaluate this as you lose your attack until the end of the turn. And as is, that's cool. This can be a really cool, I guess, good for action spam type stuff. I feel like this design in particular might be a little too powerful because it basically, I mean, if you evaluate it as +2 attack and then it also deals damage before its blockers, this can get really nasty really quick. Grief, what do you think of this?
I don't know where you're getting the spend and stay spent aspect. This is just first strike. Frenzy First Strike. And
Yeah.
Frenzy First Strike is cute, but we have friggin' Frenzy.
Mm.
Why would I want a weaker version of Frenzy?
Mm.
Not gonna lie, this is a weaker version of Frenzy, and Frenzy is a very potent and efficient keyword. It has multiple good interactions, it has good applications. Why do we need a worse version of Frenzy that has even a drawback of reducing your attack? Because that's my thing. With the spending and attack is gone aspect, I didn't really see. My thing is like spends it attack and fires and goes shooting gallery all over the blockers is one thing. Spends it attack means does it then still attack and basically die on backlash, or does it remove itself from a fucking combat afterwards?
Yeah.
That's my question. I don't like quick draw as a keyword because, as I said, we have freaking Frenzy and it's A, better in every damn aspect, and B, the non-clarity of the spending attack, not the numerical, but more the attack action.
Yeah. The word, it's worded like a mess still, and the fact that Gokun, I don't feel like he's really listening to what people's concerns are with this. Corn, what do you think of this?
Well, though I agree that the quick draw keyword could be worded a bit better, seeing that I do agree that spend probably means it reduces to 0, like you use it up. That doesn't really matter too much for this design, except for the part of it that actually makes quick draw good outside of that. So whenever you play a card, this gets +2 attack this turn. So this turn, I think, means it already would deplete afterwards anyway, regardless for this design. But
if spend meant lose it, then you would logically go into the negatives. Because this turn effect would wear off when you hit 0, plunging you further into the negatives.
No.
That's how all other this turn effects work. Because the spend would be a negative attack effect, and then the positive wears off, send you further into the negatives.
Yeah, either way, I think that has to deal more with the clarity of the keyword.
Yeah.
So basically, the keyword needs to be clarified what it exactly does. But as far as I can tell, if the keyword is spending attack, and then it resets the card at the end of turn, let's talk about giving it actual attack buffs. And this is why I don't actually. I know people. I hear both of you saying, or maybe it was more Grief, that this is a weaker version of Frenzy. It's also an easier to buff version than Frenzy.
Yeah.
Between Arcanists, you probably would have better luck buffing Frenzy on, but most cards, there's not really a lot of Frenzy buffing. But there are a lot of attack buffs. So what you could do is you could increase this card's attack buffs immensely. And all of a sudden, it's no longer worse Frenzy, it's more, I forget the card's name. It's one of the legacy Arcanists that when it attacks, it does 3 damage randomly to enemy units.
That's the thing, though. That's still weaker Frenzy, because it cares only about the blockers that's blocking it.
Well, right. It's okay. I understand it's weaker than Frenzy for what Frenzy does for the cost. But I'm also saying that this is much easier to buff than Frenzy, which I'm trying to say will kind of make up for it, if that makes sense.
I see your argument. My counterpoint against it is, though, because regardless of how unclear this spending attack now is, Frenzy may be a solid numerical, but there's still an attack associated to it, which means that it's basically just additional damage which can trigger either deadly, on-damage effects, or interact with overrun and stuff like that. But quick draw, on the other hand, comes with an innate drawback, regardless of how high you put it as a number. number, as long as it's only one blocker, if pseudo burst removal on one blocker, and then you have no attack.
Right.
Meaning, the moment I put a chump blocker in front of this, unlike Frenzy, in most cases, I don't gain a benefit out of it if I put overrun or other triggers or benefits on the unit while it attacks.
Oh, that's the other thing, and this is also missing from the card. I had to ask Okan about this, and this is why this doesn't work, is because I had to ask Okan. It only deals damage to the point where it kills.
What?
Figured I'd let you guys know how confusing this was. There's just effects that aren't on the card, and that's why it would have to get chopped down to be practically useless at the end of it. I'm just gonna skip ahead of this. I feel like I don't know. I don't like where this discussion how this discussion's been. Headless Headhuntress. Headless Headhuntress is a 4-drop neutral 1/1 Spectre Vampire Arcanist with Overrun and has +1/+1 for each different tribe in your graveyard. Getting this to work is pretty impressive. I'm guessing Corn was probably called in. I like this effect. I have actually been thinking about some Menagerie designs myself, and Menagerie being like anti-tribal. You're trying to get as many different tribes in as possible. Got wonderful art from Plopka. Overall, I just really, really like this card. Grief, what do you think about it?
It's a zoo card. Easy to proc. Put in a bunch of multi-tribe units. This one comes with 3 tribes as well. Put in a self-discard or mill type of deck, or even just hard aggressive shell, mid-range shell. People will remove cards anyways. This just grows passively and is a decent card. Enough said.
Corn, what do you think of it?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out if people think a 4-mana 6/7 or 6/6 or 7/7 overrun unit. I'm guessing that's going to be the average it'll be at. I could be wrong. Is that worth it over our other options at 4 and 5? It doesn't have immediate impact on board. It just is a big body.
Yeah, but it does have Overrun, and it can be really, really big, really, really fast. Notably, my first thought with this is to throw the Painter that has like 5 tribes, and then you could throw in, I think there's the Undead Lizabo. None of them have been updated to Warrior yet, but I mean, if they ever did, then that would be 3 unique tribes. There's a lot of ways to get this really big, really fast, I think.
Right, but is that better than, say, Green Man or something?
Well, yeah, but I mean, Green Men requires a couple turns of honest play, where this you can cheese pretty easily if you have access to some discard or mill tools.
Wouldn't you need to be doing the build setup during your previous start before you play this? No?
I think that's the issue with this card. You're just playing this in a good stuff tribal deck, or the good stuff deck that doesn't care about tribes. Most of the decks that we're basically thinking of and coming to mind is, oh yeah, put it into that shell because it's supported by that, and usually that's a mono tribe deck. This just screams, oh yeah, put a good stuff deck in, which has good stuff cards that don't care about the tribe. If it's going off, it's good. If it's not, sure, I probably have my outlets to get rid of this card. Play it in KM.
Yeah, I think I see your point, but I'm going to phrase my version of it a little differently. I think currently our tribes are very linear in their focus, and so if you want to have a focus deck, it's going to have fewer tribes in it. I don't know. I think this could still be fun, though. I think the problem with this is this would be like the first kind of card getting this kind of effect into the game, and we need more around it, really, to make it worthwhile. And make it into a deck that actually synergizes with itself. That's a whole nother issue that you brought up. It's just in a weird spot right now. I love the design. Corn, what do you think?
Well, like you say, I mean, we need to see where it is going to be. But Honestly, I'm just trying to wonder if it is worthwhile without immediate impact, regardless of how big it becomes. But yeah,
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, I forgot you already kind of talked on that.
No, it's fine. But yes, again, it is very pretty. Well, not again, but I'm saying it is. I acknowledge the art as well.
Yeah.
Bloody Mary vibes.
And last but not least is the Anomalist Adept, is a 3-drop mine 2/2 elemental arcanist from Seal of Elementary with agile and summon, and when this attacks, create an anomaly bolt. Anomaly bolt is deal 1 damage, draw a card. And it's a spell. There was actually thoughts about making a spell tribe for actions a while back. I would not be opposed to it. Art's really pretty. As is, I think this is just a solid unit to just chuck into Niblis and have this be another Arcanist. This could be good for... it's a solid, reliable draw engine. And I think it kind of does demand you pay at least a little attention to it removal-wise, because the more this attacks, the more fodder you're getting for your stuff. Overall, this is a really, really neat design. I wonder what it's sitting at. Sitting at 10, so it's pretty reasonable. Oh, we didn't bring up on Headless Headhuntress is sitting at 16, so probably going to get in. Corn, what do you... or Grief, what do you think of this?
Cool art, extremely potent effect. God, I hate this card. It's a 3-cost unit that has Agile, on summon, puts a 1-mana 1-ping cantrip card in your hand. Same turn, it attacks regardless of if it actually survives, which if it doesn't, it still damages any kind of unit for 2 damage, while also putting a 1-mana 1-ping cantrip card in your hand. In a deck that cares about A, cantripping, B, actions, and C, shitting damage all over the place. This is technically a better Splish Splash effect enabler, which also is throwing freaking pings all over the place. And I already dislike that card because it's way too potent for what it does. Yeah, this is just more of that. With draw on it.
Yeah. So do you think it's too powerful as is?
Yeah, it shouldn't probably create 2 cards when it actually enters and attacks on the same turn, and probably only trigger off attack. So you at least have a bit of time to actually interact with it, and even if they get 1 trigger off of it, it's at least just 1 copy of it, and not just 2.
I agree. Cutting the when this attacks could be good. I personally would cut Agile, but that's me. Corn, what do you think?
I would just have it on summon, if anything, to create.
I think that's a little bit too much. Grief and I want them to have some fun, just not that much fun.
No, no fun. No, but
Corn, I understand you. I respect you, but I will not comment on how harsh.
No, but on all seriousness, though, I have some issues with this the same way I have issues with the 1/2 Spectre that was up earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's under the Grief at similar. It is efficient at doing what it needs to do in the deck it's supposed to be in. It's way too efficient at it. And as I said earlier today, we have it is so easy to draw in this game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, our hand size is what, 10 at max?
13.
No, 13 in this card down to 10 though.
Yeah. Your end of turn size is 10.
That is such an absurd end of turn hand size. And we have all of these draws. I don't. I don't want more draws, and I don't want more pings. And this, adds both more pings and more draws, which we have a huge amount in this game. So, but again, so that's card pool. But looking at the card design alone, so this is 3 mana and it has a 2/2 stat line, and it produces something immediately when it comes into play that will give you card advantage and damage for another 1 mana, but it does both. So, and it can keep making. Yeah, theoretically, it probably will make 1 more at least anomaly bolt. Not always, but it probably will.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm being too hard on it, but yeah, no, it is a bit much in my opinion.
Okay. So people are saying tone this down. It's sitting at 10, so it might get in even with all this. So we will see. I'm going to stop the share. I think we've gone over time. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Grief, for joining me today.
Always nice to be here.
And Corn, it's always so great to have you back on. We don't have you on enough.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I'm doing this. And keep on playing Collective and keep on voting on cards. Bye.
See ya.